Hola Galeras, how are you?
Fix this. There we go.
Hola Galeras, how are you? How goes it? How was your week? How was your month? How was your Halloween surprises coming along? There we go. Are your Halloween surprises? That feels weird too. And you know what? I'm gonna do this because that feels less strange and awkward. There we go. How goes it? I'm Jaws Blake, as you well know. I am El Pintor to many. Let me see. Yeah. Hi. Today I'm having onigiri. Onigiri is a traditional Japanese food. I'm not really sure how to describe it. So it's seaweed wraps, rice, tuna, seasoned as necessary, and you kind of typically it's made like a sandwich, but in this case it's more kind of scoop and go. I shall show you. So you just kind of chopstick it, flip it in, and ta-da. Mmm. Pretty good. Pretty good. Um, this week is very special. On Saturday, I'm having. It's very chewy. On Saturday, I'm having my art show. Though to be completely honest, it's not just my art show. It's an art festival that's going on at People's Books in Tacoma Park, Maryland. It'll go on from about 10 to I believe about 3. So if you're in the area, please come by, say hello. I'll have lots of stuff for sale. But yeah, it has been a week. I don't know how else to describe it. It has been a week. It was good, it was bad, it was a lot of things. I think the funny thing about onigiri is very simple. It's very easy to make. It has a lot of flavor to it, but on occasion, I feel like it's a little bland sometimes, which is my fault because I made it. So there's that. But yeah, I remember growing up eating these. I go see my cousins. My cousins lived in DC near Chinatown, and we'd go to all these places. My mom would take me to like little sushi, like roundabouts, roundabout restaurants. Ones that have like the tracks, and they kind of bring the food around, and you grab stuff, and you get charged via the size of the plate and the color of the plate. So it was different types of sushi and stuff like that. I remember growing up, very deep installed in kind of the concept of a lot of I don't know, Asian food. I guess is the best way to describe it. My family is mostly South Asian, uh, as far as Asia goes, more Indian than say Japanese per se. But the funny thing is, as you learn more about cultures by simply being around people and talking to people, you realize that like a lot of these foods are done in a lot of other Asian cultures. So it's not just Japan; it's like Korea, it's all types of stuff. So your random history lesson, if you will. I cannot stress enough how important books are. I've been mostly for the last couple of months reading for about 3 to 4 books. I myself am a big science fiction reader. I love classic books, but I also love a lot of like newer books. And I always thought they were really important as far as like keeping your imagination really going. I think if you go your life without imaginative thoughts, like, that just seems very sad to me. And I've met people who are like that. Like, they don't believe, like, they're not big on the whole things are more than what they are, or things can be more than what they are. And I think, whether you're an artist or a painter like myself, or just a, regular person just doing whatever, like, if you've never kind of let your brain wander and grab it onto the idea of kind of impossible things, like, I feel kind of bad for you. I feel like you've maybe missed out on some cool things. Oh, thank you, Lorena Cruz. Thank you very much. I think I just have this idea that, like, even if you are wrong in your endeavors to, or not even wrong, even if you fail at your endeavors of trying to make something from nothing, essentially, that's okay. I won't say the fear doesn't live there for everybody. I mean, I've had a sculpture that I need to turn into a vinyl that I need to then paint and carve and make into a piggy bank and all these things that I've been needing to do for the better part of the summer. And hi, Chris. And in that, like, you're allowed to in many ways figure out how things work, and you're allowed to even be afraid of, like, failure. But to not dream at all, like, to put something to paper, I think is very difficult for a lot of people, because there is, like, a disconnect. There's that great idea you had that, oh, thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the subscribe, Cruz. That's so cool. Thank you so much. Even if I understand, like, the disconnect between the idea of, I'm going to try something, I'm not going to be good at it, and then being afraid to try it. Because you don't like to fail. Makes perfect sense. But if you're not at least running it through your head as a scenario, like, what are you doing? Like, how do you spend the rest of your time? You know? I think in a lot of ways they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Fearful of being failures and things. So, failure, I don't want to say adjacent. Adjacent's not the right word. There's a word. Somebody will say it. And it's just necessary, like, you learn so much from your failures. You learn so much from taking chances. You can see the mud. You learn so much from taking chances in life in so many different venues. And they don't always have to be, like, creative. Sometimes they're ventures in love and life and money, I don't know. But I think the key componentry to a lot of these things are, you have to figure out what you want and then just kind of think about it, Like, the first step to anything is just an idea. It's not a final idea. It's not a perfect idea. It's not an idea that isn't even worked at. It's just something. Side note, one of my favorite tapestries we ever bought. We went to a Sakura festival in DC. DC has a lot of really great festivals, and it depends on what time of year you go. And there's just a lot of really beautiful art that can be kind of purchased and brought about. I do think the funny thing that I get a lot of times is people ask me like, "Well, who made it?" And I'm like, I don't know anymore, honestly. A lot of these things are like street vendors. They don't exist beyond being street vendors. So I don't know. Sorry. You can probably Google it. Maybe. Maybe that'll work out. You know? Who's to say? Who's to say which ways you'll find things? I hear there's like phones now where you can like draw like a square around something or a circle, and it'll Google the image, and then it'll take you to like markets where you can do stuff. So you don't really need my help anymore. So I'm just not going to. I'm gonna stop. I'm excited about this show. I finally like. It took me many months, but I finally gotten to the point where I can like visualize the whole scene, the whole table, and then because I'm gonna have a tent overhead, how I can decorate the inside of the tent. And I'm quite excited about how it's gonna look. I think it's gonna look really pretty. I think it'll feel inviting. Does anybody else do art? Do you guys do any type of creative ventures? Do you try to find yourself on some type of market or whatever? Not yourself per se, maybe yourself. I don't know. This is not a judgeful place, so you do what you want. But I was just think it's kind of interesting to see. Okay, some of these. Lorna, I'm a little confused by some of these thumbs you do, but all right. I think just a lot of it's interesting though. There's so many facets on which it's going. I'm trying to get into maybe after I finish this last book, basically science fiction book that I'm reading, called by Colin Malloy. It's called "The Stars Did Wander, Darling." Really good book, kind of Goonies-esque. And in that book, they're kind of just showing everything that's going on. I don't know. It's just interesting, you know. It's very interesting to see where the book's going. Like it's got kind of a body snatchers type of vibe to it. But when I finish this book, I think I'm gonna try and read some more biographies. I think it's just interesting to get these kind of tales of people who lived at certain points and then their perspectives. From their discoveries and their mishandlings and their successes. I've always been someone who's really big on enjoying like biographies. I always loved like the History Channel and stuff like that. So My White Noise is like a Discovery Channel thing about penguins or whatever. No, that's not true. My White Noise is the biohistory of like an artist and how they live their lives and all these things. I think it's just kind of amazing to see where they're coming from. Like I look at like the Basquiat ones and like the Pollock ones and stuff like that, and it's interesting to see how much work they put into getting older and doing everything. Yeah, I heard that. Mystic Green Beanie says Eddie Guerrero's bio is pretty good too. I heard that was really good actually. They're going to make a movie actually about it. They said, I think if I heard right, it's going to be Pedro Pascal Good morning to you. Pedro Pascal's just doing everything, though. You know what I mean? Like, that guy's everywhere. It's a little crazy. But he's interesting. I think, like, having your fans make a biography about that. Thank you, Mom. My mother just informed me she got a friend of hers to watch my show. So, thank you. Thank you to everyone supporting. I appreciate you. So, I don't know. It's always interesting to see these biographies that are followed through by the people who love these people. You know, that. Oh, that's good. Mr. Green Beanie says, Pedro fit to be the tallest Eddie on screen, easily, the tallest Eddie. His brother was tall though. I forget what his brother's name is. He's got so many brothers. Not Chavo Senior. Hector. Hector is tall. It's interesting to think like the way they did like the Von Erichs movie, they could do like a Guerreros movie. And that's kind of interesting. Like these very like South Texas guys who go into Mexico, and because they're South Texans, even though they're like quintessentially the spirit of Mexico, they go in as Americans, and it's just very interesting. Like it's funny just on the level of like the way America like sees people from other places. It's just interesting. You like that movie too, Cruz? That's very cool. I don't know. I find a lot of it very interesting. And then like the actors who portray these like very famous people, they oftentimes pick like these very interesting parts of their lives to focus on that you may or may not have known about. You know, this is fun. I don't know. I've been thinking about taking that script that I wrote a couple years ago that I was going to do a film for. I was going to do a short film for. I'm making a zine of it. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm not going to make a film of it eventually, but making a zine of it seems like a really fun way to kind of tell the whole story and build it up a little more. For those who don't know, it's about four characters. Four. And they're going to a party at the beach, a Halloween party. And it's kind of a story of how this girlfriend, this boyfriend, and the girlfriend's sister who's disabled, and her boyfriend, and how they're just going to the beach. The whole story is getting in the car, stopping at like a Sonic, and then going to this big party on the beach. And they are these like little Afro-Latino kids, and so there's a lot to be kind of said via like the cultural things that they're doing that are normal stuff every day, but they're not really depicted oftentimes in media when they think of like Americana stories or whatever. So I wanted to tell one. And I've already got designs for everything, and I've already written the script, and I already have like kind of an outline, but I'd like to share that story with people one day. Sometimes it doesn't have to be, sometimes every story doesn't have to have a big budget, but I want to do it like justice, you know? And so maybe it starts this way, and it goes from there. I remember when I used to travel, do all these road trips for art shows. I remember one time driving like 10 hours at night from 3 in the morning. So when I arrived around 10 or so, sleeping for like 2 hours, then mainlining a bunch of coffee, and then setting up for the show that was happening the night of. And it was just wild. It was just a wild, wild, wild time. Didn't sell anything, so that was fun. Totally worth the drive. And, but it was interesting, you know. I met a lot of people, met a lot of con artists, which was kind of the most common thing I expected to do. That I would run into people who just talked a big game, but had no intention of following through with anything. They might even like stolen something had I had not been paying attention. But it was interesting, you know? It was a full adventure. So much artwork everywhere. In every direction. It was beautiful. I met some cool people, met some people I thought were cool, who weren't cool. It was a thing. That's kind of what I want for that zine, the new zine. It's not the old zine. The old zine's been done for years. So I'm just excited. I'm excited to get that going. I was looking at an old zine I had from someone else. It's the depiction of like an F1 race going on with race cars, and it's more about the people and less about the driving. The driving's in there a little bit, but it was cool. I always thought about it. I was like, I could do something like this. I could make something that stands out and really kind of sit on the edge of people's minds. Like, have you ever seen you've either read the comic or seen the movie Ghost World? Kind of like that. The story of this person is they're kind of getting their life going and all the things they need to do. And some of their failures and some of their wins. It's just a question of, you know, what you do and what you need to do. Got my matcha. Donated by the great one. Going to school by tomorrow. Goodbye, Cruz. Have a good one. Have fun at school. Yeah, I was talking to some friends yesterday, and we were talking about doing a field trip to the Smithsonian's in DC because they're free museums, and so all people have to do is just get themselves down there, and then we'll have some food and see some paintings and sculptures and all this stuff. There's so much like diversity as far as all the different interactions of artwork. Everything from photography to sculpture to painting to writings to writers' clothing to documentarians to all this stuff, and I find it fascinating. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about doing all these things. I have to cut a bunch of prints today and then put them in vellum backings so that I can set them up for the show. So I will see you soon, Galeras. I hope you are great. There's a video coming out tomorrow. I have not decided what it's going to be about, but it is coming out. Love you very much. Until next time, painter out. Ciao. Bye. Boop.